quorum present, so this meeting of September 17th of the Board of Health is now open. Are there any comments from the public on any issue that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on. First item is review of the minutes of August 20th. Those have been distributed. Are there any comments, additions, subtractions, objections?
Nope.
None.
Look it over.
Hearing no, the minutes of August 20th are approved by unanimous consent. And we had Robert Williams of the Pond Coalition wanted to speak. And
Is that him?
yeah, just in time. You came right on time. You're up.
Sorry, we got caught in traffic.
That's okay. Just for the record, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Bob Williams. I live at 7 Osprey Way.
Thank you. And you had some questions for us.
Yes, I've been the president of the Hummock Pond Association for over a decade, and also a year and a half ago started the Nantucket Pond Coalition. And because we're involved in water quality and groundwater, a lot of people ask me questions, and I've worked hard to learn what the regulations are for septic. So cutting to the point, Malcolm, I just had two questions sort of that have come to me. One would be if a home is in a grade A or grade B area around the ponds and technically fails being either less than 6 feet or even less than 5 feet from groundwater, would it be possible for that homeowner to come and look for a waiver to replace a new IA system with a tight tank?
Okay, I'm going to refer some questions to this to Art, because my understanding is the requirements to replace with an IA system of a system that's failed, for example, actually apply to the watershed area or the harbor watershed, not so much the Hummock Pond, correct?
Well, you're asking about a tight tank in the Hummock Pond area. It's a very general question. We would need a plan in front of us. Basically, you would ask this board for a variance. You could come here. Generally, tight tanks are a last resort. You would have to show that you could not put anything else on the property. You're talking about a conventionally failed septic system, not a failed IA septic system, correct?
A conventionally failed Title V
So you
system.
want to replace that with a tight tank rather than install an innovative alternative septic system?
Yeah, and the reason I ask is that a lot of people have very small lots, half-acre lots, and they're right almost at sea level, like 3 feet or something like that. And we've had a number of friends, just personally, socially, not on Hummock Pond, but a couple of houses out in Nantucket and some others where the whole character of the property completely changed. You know, they bought a little cottage, you know, sort of old Nantucket, and before they were done, you know, in some cases, the mound that's required on the new IA system exceeds the height of the decks that are around the homes and that type of thing. So I didn't know if it would be, you know, one would be successful if requesting a waiver if it were under those conditions.
You would, like anything, come and present that to us. I mean, the problem is, well, a lot of problems. I mean, in many ways, the complaint is that it costs money, a significant amount of money for an IA system, but in many ways we're paying for the sins of our fathers, and we have problems we have to fix.
Yeah.
And traditional systems are really not very good. I wished you'd been here, 3 meetings ago. We had a consultant speak on this. It was quite eye-opening to me about, in fact, how poor our traditional system actually is.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best to encourage IA systems. In the Harbor Shed District, now the Regulation 64 actually states if you have a failed system or transfer your property, you have to go to an IA system.
And that was the second sort of sub-question I had, because we're working with homes up in Shimo, with Pest House Pond, other places around the island. Is there any relief for those people who may have just put in a brand new system and all of a sudden the regulation changes and they were not aware of that? Could they come and ask for a waiver?
We will listen to anyone that comes.
Case by case, yeah.
Case by
okay.
case.
Well, that's the answer then. It's a case by case situation.
However, I mean, we are trying hard to do the best we can to get the nitrogen load down.
Yeah.
So waivers are going to be, I can't speak generally, not on an individual case, are not going to be easy. The comments from the board.
Yeah, just, and Art can chime in here. I mean, my sense of hearing the discussions over time about tight tanks was it also was a state issue, that the state frowned on tight tanks unless they were special situations. And we now have, I think we've adopted a special situation over Millie's Bridge
Over
in
Millis
Nantucket.
in Nantucket,
So
yes.
that's an example where the state responded, and we have, and tight tanks are authorized. I think they're the preferred option there. If you're interested in tight tanks in other areas, or citizens are, then I think you've got to start a dialogue and show that it's more than one lot at a time. I think we'd all benefit if we felt tight tanks were the answer. I'm not sure they are, Bob, but if they were, you did it for an area and with a certain set of criteria. So we weren't going one at a time, because let's pretend, for example, a tight tank cost, half of what an IA system is. We're going to have a lot of people asking that. So that's sort of my reaction, Mr. Chairman, is to find a way to deal with it.
I agree with you.
So.
Any other comments from the other board?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds very reasonable to me. I appreciate that, because I think it's a policy issue, and I'm not here as a scientist taking
Right.
a position about nitrogen in the ground. But I will say, having served on the sewer workshop committee and reading everything Warren Curran has ever done, going all the way back to 2004 and so on, and with all the work we've done on the ponds, which, as you know, Rick, has been very water quality oriented, sometimes I just wonder if some of these regulations are well-intentioned, but maybe also have onerous economic burdens or other areas that could be taken into account in terms of solving the problem, really, of the nitrogen that's in the water.
Yeah, we can go on this discussion forever. It's expensive, but we have a problem, and it's going to cost money to get it fixed,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, then we'll let people know that anybody can come here to ask a public question like I did today, but that thinking through a particular area and what sort of a waiver policy issue might be the best way to approach it, if what Rick suggests is what makes sense.
Especially with tight tanks, because
Yeah.
as pointed out, the state seems somewhat reluctant on those.
And so we're going to have to think more as a board and with our staff about this, but what we've adopted for the Harbor Watershed District might apply to other areas. So we might well have required IA systems in Zone A around Hummock Pond, just to have an example for you. So I wouldn't be surprised, as we sort of keep studying this issue, that other areas are going to face the same kind of requirement, Bob.
Right. And last question, a consumer that wants to know the answers to a lot of these regulations goes,
Call the health department.
call the health department, talk to Roberta.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I would, at some point, I would like the health department to actually maybe issue like a 2-page summary of them, or 3 pages, not with all the legal words, but, these are this area is this regulation, this area is that regulation. I think it would be very helpful for the community.
We would encourage that, Malcolm. I asked him about that. I stopped in, and Steve Visco was there, and the three of us chatted for a while. And he said the town was doing that with all the documents, and it felt to me like that was going to take a while. So if there could be any directive in that direction, anything that the Pond Coalition or one of the associations or the Civic Association, I haven't talked with them about this, I think a relationship to get direct to consumers with information about these issues is really effective. And the fertilizer issue and the nitrogen issue, both.
Right. Well,
Could go that way.
we have to, well, I'm not going to start on fertilizer issues. We have a lot of work to do on that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
More for enforcement than,
Yeah.
it's great regulation, but I'm not sure they're followed.
Well, I think if homeowners
I think we
became
need
aware
to,
online of exactly.
I think we
and-
need to push it to homeowners more,
Yeah.
but that's for the, next spring.
Okay, good.
Well,
Well,
Thank you, Bob.
thank you very
And
much.
thank you for all your work on the ponds, because
Thank you, Malcolm.
we have a lot of work to do.
It's been very rewarding. I've enjoyed it, I've learned something, and hopefully it's a good thing. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next, Art, we have 9 North Pond.
9 North Road, we have a request
I'm
from...
sorry, 9 North Road. I have
Yes.
pond in my head.
We have a request from Attorney Sarah Alger to revoke the permit issued at 9 North Road. The permit was issued with... The permit that was issued would require a variance from this board. It does not meet Regulation 64. It does not meet the 1 bedroom for every 10,000 square feet of property. It is in a nitrogen-sensitive area, which is Nantucket Harbor Watershed A. It is on a 53,000 square foot lot, and a 10-bedroom conventional septic system, not an IA, was issued. So the recommendation from staff is that the applicant cease construction of the septic system and file for a variance with this board at the October meeting at an open hearing here at the next Board of Health meeting.
And stop it's presently being constructed.
Well, I was out there today. It has not, the actual septic system has not even begun construction.
Okay.
The home has the foundation poured,
Okay.
and they're starting to
All
sheathe, they've got like the first floor, framed up in plywood.
Right, so it's not like Massachusetts Avenue where we have something already finished.
Right, correct.
Exactly. Okay.
Correct. So that would be our
All right. Here we have comments
recommendation.
from involved parties. If you just come forward and speak, identify yourself.
Attorney Arthur Reed, representing the property owner, 9 Shimmo Road LLC, along with Dan Malloy. First of all, I would point out that the owner of the property proceeded, I think, completely in good faith with regard to this project. It's been the understanding and the way that it's been enforced in the past by the health department that where town water is available, that the limitation of 10,000 square feet of lot area per bedroom has not been applicable. We're aware of the regulations. There have been numerous circumstances in which the engineers and others designing septic systems have been in contact with the health department, and in the past have always been assured that the 10,000 square foot rule is inapplicable where there is town water. I know that the regulation is ambiguous in that regard and is being interpreted differently at the present time. But we've proceeded in good faith with regard to it, and I want to make it absolutely clear that this is not an attempt by the property owner to circumvent the rules, but rather to operate within the regime that has existed.
Thank you. So, Pond Road is where again?
North Road, it's
North
go
Road.
down Gardner Road, follow that pretty much out to the end, and it's right there. It's not very far from the harbor. It is in the A zone of Nantucket Harbor Watershed.
We have I hate to go in numbers again. We have regulations about limitations of systems where there is town water, correct?
Correct.
And that applies here.
And that applies here.
Okay. Other comments? First of all, excuse me, Arthur, the board have any questions for Arthur?
I have one question, Arthur. Is the house that's being built designed for 10 bedrooms?
I believe it is.
Yes, the proposal for...
Just introduce yourself, please.
Sorry, Dan Malloy, Site Design Engineering. The house is being built. There's a second dwelling garage studio proposed with it that collectively was proposed and permitted at 10 bedrooms. The dwelling is under construction right now.
Okay.
And just to confirm what we heard from Art, the septic system itself is not under construction.
It is not.
That's right.
So that's the good news.
That's the good news. Because we do have another issue where one is already built, but that we have to deal with at a later date.
Well, with this pending today. We did check with the building department, and we did revoke the permit, the building permit, or denied the building permit application for the garage to see, rather than having another permit out there and us chasing something, depending on your decision today.
Okay.
Obviously, this all has to be resolved. We're not going to go ahead and build
Yeah.
something and be in violation.
Fine. Other comments? Sarah?
Sarah Alger, since I filed this letter, I feel compelled to say something about it. The issue that we have primarily with this permit is the fact that it should be an IA system, it's the issuance of a conventional system so close to the harbor in the A zone where your regulations so clearly require
An IA system.
an IA system. And I know that.
I'm sorry, you're representing?
I represent the people at, I never remember their address, but they're direct abutters.
Okay, that's fine.
Lady Bird LLC, and they're at 8 Middle Valley. All of the septic systems that I'm aware of in that area that have been issued as IA systems and have been issued with that 10,000 square foot limitation per bedroom, with the bonus being applied. And I understand now that the regulations are being interpreted so that even the bonus is no longer being applied. I don't per se have an issue with IA systems getting bonus bedrooms. I think a lot of people have bought property relying upon bonus bedrooms being given with IA systems in both Zone A and Zone B of the harbor watershed. So to the extent that you're looking at the regulations, I'd suggest a relaxation of that particular aspect. But for this property, 9 North Road, to put in an application for a 10-bedroom septic system on a 53,000 square foot lot on a conventional system basis, I think is really going too far. And I think your regulations have been clear all along. I don't think that they've been interpreted as not requiring that nitrogen.
The last time we revised 64, it said in that zone new construction is an IA system.
That's correct.
It's very clear.
I think it's very clear, and I don't think that conventional systems have regularly been being permitted in these zones.
Well, with the revisions of 64, which were put, that's very clear.
Right. And the building that's under construction, they've been on notice of issues for a long time. My understanding is the building department today issued a stop work for zoning issues on the main dwelling. The garage with the apartment hasn't been constructed yet. I don't believe the house is designed for 10 bedrooms. I think it's designed for something like 7 or 8 bedrooms.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Sarah?
I'm not sure it's for Sarah, but
Or
just,
for anyone.
just to be clear, it sounds like the issue with stopping construction that might have begun in the garage is related to the number of bedrooms. In other words, there were
I think
some bedrooms included in the garage, and since it hadn't gone anyplace, the better course of action was to say no until this is resolved.
That's on the garage, but
That's in
there's
the
now a
garage.
stop work order on the house
As well. Right.
And that's for something separate from the issue here.
Now, this
What is the stop order on the house for?
Zoning.
Is it anything to do with,
It's currently for zoning issues, but if the permit here is revoked, then I think that they'll put a stop work order as well on the basis of the septic permit not being.
Right,
If I can respond to Richard's question about the zoning stop work order. It relates to the height of the structure. It's a sloping site, and there are complex calculations with regard to the determination of the elevation above grade under the very confusing regulations that exist under the zoning bylaw. And we have worked with the building department in that regard in order to determine what's going to be required. In fact, we're in the process of preparing and will be filing within the next few days with the HDC and with the building department the revised house plans, which will show a minor change that will result in compliance with the zoning requirements on height. That's what that's all about.
Thank you. That was the next question. So.
All right. Any other comments, questions from the board?
No, I think just to be clear, I think what I heard was that we're recommending any future action at this board would come through a variance request at our next meeting, or some request, not sure what it is, at our next meeting. Is that correct? And in the meantime, no septic would be installed?
Correct.
Okay. That's your understanding as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you're itching to say something.
I just have a quick general question, more of a directional question. In terms of what's approved, what you can't answer through the plan in front of you, but a direction for us to proceed in terms of we're aware of the new regulation requiring IA systems. So the fact that there isn't one there now, at some point in time in the future, there would be one. So I guess we need some direction. If we have to come back with a revised plan or a variance or a direction of what we're coming back for.
Well, the regulation states that in that zone, if you have new construction, a failed system, or change of ownership, you have to put in an IA system. And this sounds like new construction. So, and we'll always listen to a variance.
So as a throw an idea, I would expect we may come back with an IA system of some kind, just generally speaking. So we come back with an IA system. Historically, the bedroom count was allowed to go up with an IA system. I understand that may be different now. Historically, that was allowed. So trying to determine what we're actually...
I would refer to Art for guidance here.
Well, I would start with, Dan, an IA system and the number of bedrooms that the credit would give you is where I would start. That's my direction.
Yes, and if you
Because it's
you
a
heard the discussion...
53,000
Yeah.
Square
sorry.
foot lot would give you, what, 7 or 8?
Probably 8.
Okay, that's where I would start.
If
And
if
the board can take
yeah.
it, and, you know, we can talk from there.
And if you listen to the last discussion, the board is very receptive to IA systems. It puts us in a good mood when we hear that first off, and then we can argue about rooms.
But can I say something just because I don't want to mislead sort of my own thinking here. And I'm not sure I have this right, Art, so help me. But within the Harbor Watershed District, I think once, the bonus issue, so to speak, if you were in Tom Nevers, that's one thing. But if you're in the Harbor Watershed District, it seems to me that the so-called bonus system is another way that the total amount of nitrogen coming out ends up being like a standard system in a way. Now, I don't know the numbers here, but if you keep adding bedrooms, at some point the nitrogen saving we're getting from going to an IA gets negated by the intensity of use of the property. So I'm just sharing as a general comment that we, or at least I, need to understand thoroughly the impact of that before waivers or variances are granted on kind of a standard operating procedure to, in effect, reinstate the bonus system. And I would not be receptive unless I thoroughly understood what the implication of that was. Okay? Just.
I think he expressed it very well. So, you have to explain. We need a motion to stop the construction? Ask them, or?
You need a motion to
We can stop.
cease construction
Yeah.
and file for a variance.
Well, we could they'll file for a variance. They don't need a motion for that. I think I need a motion that that they would stop construction on the septic system.
Well, we could do that. On the other hand, they voluntarily stopped construction. I'm not sure whether it's helpful to them or us to have a motion. If it's helpful, Art, that's fine.
Yeah, I would, any comments?
I mean, it sounds again like the permit's even ineffective, is no longer valid under the
If you have a
circumstances.
stop order on the house now, that includes the septic system, am I right?
I'm not sure of that, Richard. I think
Well, then we might have to have a motion to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I'm not against it. I'm just trying to.
I'm just
understand the
I'm a
purpose.
simple physician and not a lawyer. I just think it'd be easier if we just had a stop order. And for our little bit of the problem.
Well, if you revoke the permit, which is what you're talking about doing, that has that effect. I don't think you need to do anything more than that.
That's fine. Then I would, if someone would propose a motion that we revoke
I
the
make a
permit.
motion that we deny the permit.
We'll revoke the permit
Revoke the permit.
that's been issued. That's the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
That's the simplest thing.
Further discussion?
I support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so unanimously, the permit is revoked.
And obviously, you will see us in the near future.
I assume we will, whenever you can. We're here every Thursday, third Thursday of every month. Thank you. 19 North Pasture.
Okay, 19 North Pasture, this is the beginning of the new regulations being invoked. We have a property transfer. They're seeking relief from the property transfer requirement to install an innovative alternative septic system. The lot is 3 acres. The septic system is conventional. It's 8 bedrooms. We did a soil evaluation out there and with Blackwell and Associates, and they proved 15 feet separation and no groundwater to the bottom of the leach. The issue here, and this came up after our recommendation came out, so I'd like to change the recommendation to deny or continue, because we have not had a septic inspection at the property, so we don't know if it passes or fails, and it may change the way you feel about granting or not granting this if you knew if it was passed or failed. So that would be...
So you're kicking a can down the road for us.
Well, yeah,
But I
it's
think
information.
actually, it's a significant decision for us because
It's
it's the first,
significant.
it's the first one of the new regulations that we have to make. And, well, I'm not going to be a philosopher, so.
If I may,
Yeah.
Attorney Arthur Reed representing the property owners in connection with this application. Not only is there in excess of 15 feet of separation between the system and groundwater, we're at a very high point within the North Pasture subdivision, well to the south of Pulpus Road, approximately 3,700 feet from the harbor. It's hard to imagine that the effluent that passes through this system is going to have any impact upon the harbor. I think this is a rather extreme case of one in which there will not be any adverse impact from the granting of a waiver. Obviously, the parties were unaware of this situation when they entered into the agreement to sell the property. It was brought to their attention afterward. No, there has not been Title V inspection done yet. Actually, we were holding off in order to determine the results of this variance application before having it done for obvious economic reasons. In fact, the present owners bought the property about 5 years ago. It passed then. It's a 1996 Title V compliance system that was designed by Blackwell and Associates back at the time. And we, in any event, regardless of what happens on a variance, would have to have the system inspected before sale anyway. So, I mean, it would be obviously a condition of any relief that you would grant, that there would be, that the system would in fact pass when it's tested. If it doesn't pass, it's back to the drawing board. We've got to deal with that anyway. I think it's extremely unlikely that it won't pass, however.
Comments from the board?
Arthur, why don't they just have the system tested?
We were waiting to see whether it was going to have to be replaced, frankly.
Well, what if you have it tested and it passes?
If it passes, then we're fine, but we're still dealing with the requirement for upgrade on transfer.
Yeah, I
That's
know,
the
but
reason we're here.
but then you have to come in for a variance, and then we have a choice that we can make with the variance. But we can't make any choices at all if we don't know if the system is good or it's bad.
If it's good, then we wouldn't have to do anything. We wouldn't.
Maybe.
If it's bad, it's going to have to be replaced or repaired under any circumstances.
But I think
Don't our new regulations say that the systems are supposed to be tested every 5 years?
Yes.
Didn't that?
They do.
So
Yeah.
we're in the 5-year period, so.
But on the other
It
hand,
should be
if you were to tell us, which we certainly hope that you will not, that regardless of the fact that the system passes, it's not an IA system, and therefore is going to need to be changed to an IA system, we frankly wasted the effort of having the system tested. That's the point.
You still would have to have it inspected for the property transfer regardless.
That's what I'm saying. So therefore, why not make it contingent upon it passing?
What I'm saying is whether it happened before, it's got to happen. So
Right.
whether you're saving money now it doesn't matter. It has to happen.
But it's not going to happen if you tell us that we have to put in an IA system.
But we're not going to tell
It
you to
could,
put
you're
an
right.
IA system until we see if the system that's existing in there passes or fails. Because it has to be inspected one way or another. Am I right?
Well, you're right in a sense, but I mean, I do understand
I understand that.
contingencies and so forth. So, and I think part of our struggle here, frankly, is this is the first. And, you know, this road has 15 lots or whatever it has on it. And I think we're going to find ourselves in a situation, and we talked about this quite openly when we dealt with the regulation. And at least my preference was to deal with it on a variance basis rather than exclude them from the impact of the regulation.
Right.
So Jim, I think there is some rationale if we felt it appropriate that if we were going to insist on IA systems, whether the system passes or not, that's something we're going to have to deal with, and we're going to have to deal with it in this case. And I don't mind getting some more information, and perhaps there's some information that would be helpful in waiting a month. But testing it, I agree, is not really the first step here. The first step is whether we're going to require IA systems on this road, frankly. So
That's the question.
that's my sense of
And
it.
again, not so much on this road as under these circumstances with a large separation from groundwater and a large distance from the harbor.
Right, I understand, Arthur, but I'm not sure how many, we're going to have to pick these off one at a time, I guess. But, you know, maybe this one's this high and the next one's this high, and there's enough of a difference to cause a different reaction by the board. And I don't know that yet.
No.
But it's going to be hard once you give one variance not to give others.
Yeah,
So,
that's
we're,
right.
we're saying the same thing, I think.
yeah.
Okay, is the board comfortable of discussing this?
I would like one thing, is that, and I don't know, Art, how we get at this. There are two things. One, the height and how much sort of gets filtered out as it comes down, and the distance. And I would guess there's some calculation someplace that says something like in soils such as we have here, every yard takes away 0.01 of nitrogen. You know what I'm trying to get at?
I do.
And there might be some hint as to what is involved here. And I don't know if we want to get to that level of detail, but,
Maybe we're gonna,
well, I'm just,
it gets Then we're really complicating our future.
We are, and maybe it's not worth it, Malcolm, but I can see there is some math if you ever wanted to get to that here, so.
The only thing that bothers me is if we come out and say, we're not gonna do this, we're gonna make him put an IA system, then anybody else that comes in here from that place, we're gonna have to make everybody put an IA system in.
Yeah, that's
We
what I was
are.
trying to say early on.
And that's that is a very big, expensive thing for us to put on all these people right now, just
Okay.
acting on this.
So we discussed it.
Regulations.
When
I
we
know.
passed the
Okay,
regulation.
okay.
We had a long discussion that we would end up in this position.
Okay.
Right.
We did it, we did it enthusiastically.
Okay.
So I think that's why the math is a little bit helpful, or at least conceptually, that this house might be higher than by 50 feet than any other house on the road. I'm just sort of making that stuff up. And if it is, that might have an impact on deciding one request one way and another way, Jim.
Right.
So, you know.
Okay.
All real estate is unique. Every property is different.
I'm just uncomfortable a little bit. We're putting another criterion there of height, and then, I don't know,
Yeah, well,
I'm just concerned.
so we
I
have
mean-
to, are you suggesting we ought to make a judgment tonight, or wait a month and,
Well, I
You
want to
know?
get the census of the board. I have a sense, I want to know where we're going to go here. What are we going to know more in a month?
well, I'm not sure we're gonna know anything, unless there was an easy way to sort of run the differences here. I don't know, my sense, just driving up this road, which I didn't do, but we all
I know
have
the
at
road,
one
yeah.
time or another, is that it is indeed a long distance from the harbor. It is much higher than almost every other property within the Zone A or Zone B. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I'm guessing it's the highest, practically the highest road within the district. And I can see it might justify a different treatment. So if you want to know,
And
Mr.
the
Chairman,
staff's recommendation, forget the inspection, because actually I agree with Arthur. I mean, if we were to make a decision now, they're going to have to replace it, or not replace it. And your recommendation originally was,
Just a neutral recommendation.
It's a neutral recommendation.
You know, if this particular property doesn't make it, then there isn't a property that will make it.
yeah, that's what I guess.
So
That's a good
the only
answer.
reason I changed it from neutral is because of the inspection. I do think it is important to have that knowledge if you may be going in a different direction.
All right, well, then, I'm not sure any more information is going to help us. And I take Arthur's point that if we say they have to put alternate design system in, there's actually no reason to do the inspection now because they're going to have to change the system. And I don't want to get into mathematical calculations of height because I'm not sure there's any documented evidence that makes what difference it makes. And I don't want to get that stuck subconsciously into our regulations. We're going to have people in here, you know, with surveys of how high they are. It'll really complicate things. So running this through my son, we have to make a decision. So we need a motion either way to approve this variance or deny this variance, and we'll vote accordingly how that is presented. Do I hear a motion? All right.
Well,
And let-
this is a tough one. I mean, I think there's a lot of precedent going on here. I don't,
And this is
I-
tough.
I
It's our
would-
first one,
I
and a new
understand.
regulation.
And so that I'm not prepared to make the motion one way or another.
Okay.
Someone else may be. I just be honest with you. I think
I feel- I
I
get-
think I'd spend a little more time looking at the
I-
map, quite frankly.
I get a sense that you've caught us in an interesting time as the first variance of a new regulation.
There's always a first.
Good for you, Arthur. And while we talked about this happening to us, we actually have. And I don't feel I have a comfortable board on either side of me making a decision one way or the other. at this point. I know how I would probably go, but I don't feel like I have a board that's comfortable in making the decision. Is that correct?
That's right, no. I know how I would go too, but,
I'm not comfortable making a decision.
We're going to have to make one sometime.
We're going to have to make some.
I think if two of you have a point of view, you might, if you don't want to let us know today, I think you might want to let us know sometime. I think if the conversation, we all benefit from everybody's point of view. And if you're far enough along.
My point of view is that we could have all more information, we can discuss it, we can debate it. At some point, we have to make a decision, and we've been appointed to this board to make decisions. That's our job. That's what we get the big paychecks for, and I'm not sure more information will have it. And I'm very uncomfortable at this point giving variances on a regulation that we spent almost 9 months debating and discussing and having consultants. So my present mode is I would not support the variance if it came to a vote.
Yeah, no, I think that's a prudent point of view. I understand. I don't want to just sort of look to others to help lead us, but I think we're developing some kind of a consensus here is what we're talking
I agree with
about.
you. So I don't see any point in delaying this. And
no, I agree with you. I fully support the regulation. It is precedent setting. If we don't start
we can't.
making difficult decisions.
Then there's no reason why we spend all that time in this regulation at all. And we have a problem on this island of too much nitrogen. We can't every day say, well, we'll push off the decisions. We'll push off putting a sewer in. We'll push off this.
This is just a symptom of what the Board of Selectmen is going to face when we get right down to it on the sewer discussions. So,
Exactly. This is going to cost us money, but we have to deal with it. So I'll ask again for a motion.
So I'll be happy to make a motion. I move that we deny the variance request.
Do I hear a second?
All right, I will second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor of denying the variance request, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried unanimously.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Eel Point, 87.
Okay, 87 Eel Point Road. The applicant is seeking relief from the 300-foot down gradient setback from the septic system to well. So basically, the groundwater is flowing from the septic system towards the well. We have a 300-foot setback. It's considered maximum feasible compliance. This particular lot could meet the requirement without the maximum feasibility. The septic permit was issued showing the well in a complying location on the west property line highlighted on your map in yellow. The water quality testing is from the well highlighted in purple on your map. The purple highlighted well on your map was to be abandoned as part of the septic approval. So this office recommends denying the variance request until the applicant provides water quality testing results from the original proposed well location. And they did find traces of, I don't know if it was traces, but they had lead and they do have a copper problem, but that's coming from the well that was being removed and abandoned anyway.
Okay. Anyone comment? Please.
Elizabeth Morey for Christopher L. Morey Design and Construction. This site has had significant water quality issues, and the location of the proposed well, as Art is saying, there are 2 irrigation wells that were there. I have pictures of them. Don't have any testing from them, but they failed in the past. They had the same iron and lead content. Can I show you?
Please.
This is the cottage here, and you can't really, these are the 2. I have closer pictures. That's one of the wells, and that's the other well. That makes sense. And then this is the well that's the water supply now. So that's the small cottage that's here. So this well is here, and then there's this one as well that's right here. And that's where the proposed well
Here.
was shown on the plan.
Now,
But-
wait.
Yeah, it's. So this proposed well shown. We have proof
Can
the
you all-
water
can you all-
quality.
I can see.
You can
So-
see?
yeah.
This is, this
In
was the
this
proposed,
area.
this is the proposed well,
Yes.
and this is what, this is
With
we drew.
No,
No, wait,
this is
that's the
existing
original.
well. This
Yeah.
is proposed on the septic plan.
And the well that you drove is,
Over here. Basically, there are 2 irrigation wells in this
Right.
area that previously were abandoned because they had the same water
Right.
quality issues as this.
and this well is driven in this.
And- Yeah, and I went to speak with Richard Ray, who was the Board of Health agent at the time in the spring, and Gaby Holgate and myself discussed with him what we should do, and we discussed this as the location for the new well, because there's also an abutters well that was here that had salt intrusion in it, so that whole area was just deemed not feasible for a well. So we never went back to it. We went with the guidance of the Board of Health at the time and did exploratory drilling here, found good water. And so, like, in my mind, we discussed it with the Board of Health at the time, and they gave us the guidance to go this direction. For us now to have to go back into this area where we know there's poor water, I think is...
Well, who said to drive the well here?
That's what was shown on the septic plan done in 2012 for the previous owner. But they were never in touch with the well driller to say that location won't work
Because of the water
because of the
quality.
water quality.
So they might have drawn a plan and, I'm just sort of making this up, the separation requirements and all those things
No.
suggested you put the well here, but they didn't understand that you got lousy water.
Right.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
And so basically in this area, I mean, we meet the 100-foot setback, and it's the back corner of the soil absorption system that hits the 300-foot groundwater flow direction, which it's not like we didn't have a well within 100 feet of a septic. It's
Right.
the 300-foot groundwater flow. And basically, from our understanding, that's the only place we can put it. And that was also the guidance of the Board of Health at that time.
Well, the health department.
Yes, sorry, the health
Yeah.
department. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We weren't involved in that. So essentially, you're saying this is your only choice. And
But
this,
but your only choice is in this area, Art, that in your opinion is what? Where the water,
All I'm saying is the proposed well location, the yellow on the west line, we have no evidence that the water quality is poor there. That's all. And we do have evidence that the water quality is poor from the existing well in purple.
right?
And that's where I stand. We're trading effluent for possible, effluent contamination, septic contamination for a lead, iron, it's an issue. They have an issue. But all I'm asking for is, water quality results. If that's the case, that's probably the only place it could go.
Well, let me ask you a question. If we agree to leave that well where they drove it, is there any way we can have them, we can insist on water quality tests from the well?
You could, absolutely. You could.
from water quality tests from the proposed well.
From the new well
From
they
the-
drove.
So if they drive the new well and we test the water,
They already drove, you already
you've
drove.
already
the-
driven it, okay, I just got it.
They already did. So if we allow them to keep the well there, we can just put a stipulation that you tell us how often it should be checked and how they go about doing it to make sure that the water quality coming out of that well isn't going to contaminate anything.
That you certainly can do that, absolutely. I mean, you're looking for amount of sampling 2 times a year?
Whatever the
Whatever you
health department
recommend.
recommends.
I mean,
That would be
this,
fine.
I like this
2 times a year for
because there's
coliform and nitrogen.
there's very limited options here.
Yep.
Very limited options here. Okay, I like that. We want to make that a motion?
I would like to, but I would like to,
You
you know,
need more
make a
information?
motion that we agree to leave that well there, that let them use that well with the stipulation that the information that Art will present to them for what they have to do to make sure the water quality is kept up is part of the agreement to let them leave the well there.
Do I hear a second? Any further discussion?
So we understand how we manage it internally, we need like a tickler system that says every 6 months to, and that shouldn't be that big a deal. We've got
No,
lots of
it shouldn't
ticklers,
be.
I'm
No.
sure. Okay.
Right. Okay, so the motion essentially is that the well will be checked twice a year according to the guidance given by the health department. All in favor? Aye. Carried unanimously. Police agents,
Yes, okay, so,
my favorite, absolute favorite subject.
well, I really got to give a lot of credit to the new director. He came up with a very, very good idea that should take care of and appease neighbors of animals that, you know, keep people up at night, whether, you know, mostly the crowing roosters. So if the board makes all police officers agents of the Board of Health for animal issues, then we can instruct neighbors to call the police department. And I want to be sure that you're aware that the chief of police is on board with this and was consulted. And so we can instruct neighbors to call the police in the wee hours of the night, whatever, you know, during sleeping hours, and make a complaint. The police would verify, they would notify us, and then certainly I don't think on the first time we're going to go ticket anybody, but when we have chronic problems, we can then ticket them under the Mass General Law nuisance. And I think it would be a big step because right now there's not a lot of teeth in some of the regulations in dealing with this noise issue.
So it would be done under Massachusetts law,
It's a general law.
not
nuisance.
under our Regulation 8.
No.
Will we
Just-
have something in writing, the steps that, how these things, first visit, second visit,
Well,
first
we could-
warning, fine, I mean, in other words, if they have a call and the police go out, if they have something they can hand to the person and say, look, this is the first warning. Here's the procedure, how it goes from here.
We could certainly draw something up. I mean, we do inspections, you know, every day and have the discretion to, you know, be reasonable and work with reasonable people. But when you run into unreasonable people, which is about 5% of the population, you have
Right.
to enforce and fine.
Right.
And that's where, you know, I would prefer to keep that discretion within the department. You know, everybody deserves a chance. Everybody
No, I
deserves to be
understand that. I
consulted,
understand it,
talked
but
to.
what I'm
and then-
saying is, if you have a habitual, you know, something that's, you have 3 calls a week, after a while.
Well, I would say the third call, you're getting a ticket.
No, oh, okay.
I'm not,
All right.
we're not, we can't mess, you know, we need to nip this in the bud.
No,
Not,
you're
this is the
absolutely
whole
right.
intent of it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So I think we're better to leave the discretion between the department and the police department.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just
Okay.
have to. Now, the other question is, are you still working with the Ag Commission on regulations? Or will this,
I don't, that's a good question that I cannot answer.
okay.
I know there's been contact, and I don't know where that has been. So, but in lieu of that, to deal with the immediate problems, this
Right, fine.
was,
So we can deal with rooster noise or other animal noise.
Correct.
Well, my just advice, though, is I would go back to the Ag Commission, because I know they're doing a lot of work, and I wouldn't want them to do work
Right, unnecessarily. Okay.
unnecessarily work.
So like sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because you have probably, with this one idea, eliminated a lot of people's time and effort. So we need a motion to authorize the police to act as the Board of Health agents for animal noise issues.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The Nantucket Police Department are now our agents to deal with animal noise issues. And to remind you, Roberta ought to make sure that people aren't running around working when maybe the issue's been solved.
Well, we hope that's how this is going to come out.
Well, good luck.
We'll find out.
Okay, you have some 2 ACOs for us.
Yes, so the first one is administrative consent order for 207 Nantucket Road. It is in, obviously, the Nantucket Harbor watershed. It is in the sewer needs area, and we recommend approval of this administrative consent order.
Was this a failure or something? What happened here?
Yes, it's definitely a failure, and
What kind of failure?
well, that's another. It was technical.
You
failure.
have comments? You want?
No, I was just, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ann Barrett, Board of Health, Department of Health,
Go ahead.
technical failure,
Okay.
That's 207.
207.
207 technical failure.
Any questions, comments?
Nope.
Just, it sounds like this would be consistent with other actions that we've taken
This
in
sounds,
similar
this
circumstances.
sounds very consistent. Do I have a motion to approve this ACO?
So,
Further second?
Second.
Any further discussion? We have a motion to approve the ACO for 207 Nantucket Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. ACO for 25,
Hold quick, while we have you, can we get a signature for this?
where do I sign? Oh, up here. We have another ACO for 253 Nantucket Road.
Yes, again, we have a failure. I will defer to Ms. Barrett as to what I don't know if it was hydraulic or, but it is a failure. And we are recommending approval, but requesting an extension on the filing, the recording, because, and I believe Ms. Attorney Glidden is here and could elaborate if you want to hear a little
Yes,
more.
please.
Jessie Rusher for the applicant slash seller. Actually, Paul Jensen is here for the applicant buyer of the property. So the application has been filed and signed by the contract purchaser. So this closing is scheduled to happen September 30th. And if we have to record it 5 days from the day you sign it, we might not be at September 30th. And it needs to be signed by the new buyer. So it doesn't make any sense to record it till the closing day.
Okay.
So that's the reason for the extension. It is a technical failure. I'll throw that in there too. to clarify
Question-
that. And if there's
questions?
other questions.
From the board? Do I have a motion that we would approve the ACO, but with the extension request of filing 5 days? You said 5 days.
It's, I think per your requirements, it's 5 days after you sign, so we need to extend it until.
Extend it to
at least
September 30th.
September 30th, I mean, maybe October 7th or 10th, somewhere, just in
I'll tell you
case.
what, the motion is to approve the ACO with the extension of filing until October 7th,
That's
2015.
terrific, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you.
And you have a betterment release, Richard?
Yes, we have two, correct?
We have two betterments, and one betterment for Patty and Shane Nichols. They never took any of the money, and Elizabeth Brown signed off on that. The second betterment for Mr. Saradellis, he had paid it off at the end of 2014, and we did not have a release form available. I believe that was mentioned in your December meeting with Mr. Ray. We now have a release form from the town attorney, and we would like your vote to release these betterments and sign the release for us.
Good.
Any questions? I hear a motion to release these two betterments together.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of releasing the betterments as described?
Aye.
Aye. Carry unanimously.
Sign it.
You need all this?
Yep.
Thank you. Director's report.
Okay.
We got some of it in writing, which
Yes.
is nice. Oh, before,
Yep.
I wanted to ask this question, because it goes back to inspections and the discussion on Hummet Pond.
Yes.
All inspections were supposed to be done by June 30th, 15. That's the article, or the regulation I found. That was 55 or something.
Okay.
Did we do that?
We have 175 that still have not complied, and I have a letter going out that I would like to get approved with, yourselves and town administration. We're meeting with town administration on the 4th, and the letter's drawn up, just needs to go out, and, obviously with fines associated with it, they've been well aware. So that's where we are with that.
Okay, good.
Could I just get the number again? It's one, this is Hummock Pond,
Yes.
A, and B,
A and B, there's 175 that have not complied.
out of rough, do you know?
I think it was 400 and change.
Just want to get a sense of the.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry we shouldn't brought that up when we were discussing Hummet Pond, but in the search for the regulations, I found that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's 40% or something. That's not, yeah.
It's actually
So
good.
it's time, it's time to
I
send the
think
letter
they,
and start the,
Maybe I'll call Bob, or you may want to call Bob. I think a little push from a neighborhood perspective would
I
be
will
helpful.
I will call Bob.
Okay?
Can you send me an email with the numbers
yes.
that as of June 15th, which was the regulation, everything had to be inspected?
It's June 30th, I thought
June
was the
30th, and we've
end.
extended it.
Yeah, it's been
in my-
extended a couple.
My time here, we've extended it at least twice. And I will talk to Bob.
So you want numbers of how many's been inspected, how many have not complied with the inspection?
Yeah, how many,
You don't want failure or pass or anything?
No,
like
no,
that.
I don't need the detail.
Yep.
That these have not been inspected, and we have been gracious to the community by extending the deadline at least twice, and I think if I really thought back, we might have even done it 3 times, and that's just really not acceptable. Now I'll write a note to Bob or call him. Maybe he can
Well, at this point,
encourage.
it's time to send the letter with the finding and just start, and I think,
To start,
Yeah, no,
that you'll clear up 90% of them with
we've
that.
been patient.
we're supporting you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the more we extend, the more pressure it puts on the office, and the
we're not
less work
extending
it gets done.
anymore, I don't think.
I'm with you.
Okay, because it just makes it keeps, nothing gets done. Okay, director's report.
Okay, you'll have to bear with me a little bit because it's not my report. So
Yeah, you don't have to read it, you can just
No.
summarize it.
Yep. So pretty much we have Stephen Tidd at the hospital, who is continuing with our graph. Obviously, the numbers have increased significantly with the Nantucket Cottage Hospital's tracking system. And, Roberto is going to start a bit of a program here dealing with prevention and education and, target all different people, children, the elderly, to get the word out there and try to get these numbers down.
What's happening with our deer donation program?
Well, interesting. We're plugging along. I'm trying to get the Interfaith Council the processor and ourselves sat down so that we all know how this thing works. And then we'd like to, do a public campaign here. I've talked to the Hunt Club, and, yep, they're on board, but I really want to get a little more information to them. Certainly the paper needs to, pick this up. It needs to.
We'll get it picked up. But
Yep.
so you still haven't gotten everybody in the same room?
It's been difficult. I've had the process, we've had the processes itching.
So you got a process, you need to get the processor with the food bank in the same room.
Yep. Just so they know how the process
Right.
goes between tracking.
Can we expedite that somehow?
One of them's on vacation. We're scheduling for something next week.
Okay,
so
good.
we're trying.
Do we have numbers yet or not?
Numbers
For the
on.
cost of the program?
No, we have a donator who's going to donate up to a significant amount of money that's
I
going
have a
to.
community association that also is interested
Well,
in donating.
and what we really could use is a purchase or contributing towards some of the invoice forms being drawn up, so that for the tracking system. It wouldn't, a couple hundred, would do us for the whole
Do you
thing.
have freezers and things? If you
This is
work
what
that-
I'm trying to talk to with the Interfaith Council, because we need a commitment from them. We can't, that they're going to provide this freezer or these freezers.
Or
Or
it
they
won't work, unless we had someone else donated.
could donate some freezer space just for the
Just
weeks.
put them in here, they'll freeze.
Yeah. Could be for a couple of weeks.
Hang everything right here.
Right?
Hang them here.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So, okay, we're good with that. So just an update on 13 Mass Ave.
Yes.
So just so you're aware, a septic system was installed out there without a permit, needed several variances, was installed in a floodplain, and needed Concom approval. Hopefully, Concom was, they were on the agenda for this meeting, but they got off the agenda because they were at Concom yesterday, and the indication Concom was going to probably require a tight tank. So we may not see it, but if we do, it'll be at next
Okay.
meeting.
So that's not over the bridge, or it is over?
It is over
It's
the bridge.
over the bridge.
I
It's
just wanna
13 Mass
be
Ave.
comfortable with the tight tank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a tight tank location.
Okay.
definite. So then, 23 Sheep Pond Road, I don't know if you're aware, but it was demolished.
My goodness.
Okay, just to follow up on that,
By the town?
No, not by the
Private?
Owners,
Privately?
owners.
Okay.
private. The owner did it, contracted, I believe, Toscana. No,
Okay.
and Barrett Enterprises.
so
Yeah.
we thank the homeowner in that case, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And septics or anything underground was pulled out as
Yep.
well, or?
The wells were cut off, the septic pipes were, the tank already left
Tank
a
went
long time
overboard,
ago.
yeah.
So is the tank in the ocean someplace?
I believe that's where it is.
I believe it is, yes.
I
But
get-
that happened,
I find, years ago, but I just want to share with us all, we, to the extent this happens again, which it could, if we can do whatever we have to do to get those tanks out so they don't end up in the water, do you know what I mean? And if we have to go to court, then we should be prepared to do. I'm just encouraging us, and not blaming anybody, and we're all part of this problem. And,
that's a good point, that those should come out. The only problem is by the time we realize that it's within a Concom Barrier Beach problem.
yeah, I understand. So, but maybe we say we anticipate a possible problem on number 22 or something in 5 years, so that it sort of alerts us, and I don't know what we do, but it might be talking to the homeowner. Maybe it's time to say, let's pull that thing out right now and do a tight tank. Something. Because once they're in the water, someone's going to get hurt. Seriously hurt. So.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, good.
Okay, now we have the grants that Roberto applied for. 2 grants, one with Nacho and the other with Robert Wood Johnson grant. The Nacho grant is to cover costs of project management software to track the efficiency and make the department a little more efficient, or a lot more efficient, we hope. And the Robert Wood Johnson grant has no strings attached. It's a $25,000 grant as long as it goes to a public health success in the community. So they've been submitted, and we'll wait whatever time it requires to be approved.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up question. On the tracking software, I get a little concerned that I know the town was working with this outfit to get some kind of a program.
You're talking about a seller?
Yeah,
The
and that was, I assume that would have done some of this. Maybe not exactly, but I want to be comfortable that, something you do helps others or not, or we're not, you know what I mean, that each department isn't developing its
Their
own
own.
tracking software independent of others or something like that's all.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's gone by the wayside, that one.
Yeah, I've heard that one's a bad news, that's gone, but that doesn't mean that this one couldn't help others if it was,
Oh, absolutely.
you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I guess IT or whoever in the town gets involved, and I don't know who that is.
Okay. And I thought one of my other favorite subjects, that we're going to hear about trash regulations at this meeting.
No, we did that. We did that last time. We decided we were going to.
I thought we were going to revise them.
Well, looking at those, I'm not sure they need to be revised. I think it says exactly that in there.
So you're not going to, okay.
But good point. We'll put that on the agenda and at least confirm
Well,
that.
at least you're in the director's report so we can chalk it off the list. But
Right.
the issue was you only really wanted to track the big guys.
Correct. And I think it says it right in. I say I think, but I mean it's
If that's what it
Pretty clear.
says, we don't need to revise them.
right.
Just put on the next director's report
Okay.
to tell us that you've made that conclusion, because it kind of fell off. Other questions from the board for the staff?
I might have a question. Mark, did you have a chance to look at this? I apologize to the board, this Aikens KCO was the first one that I dealt with, and I just noticed
Yeah, it was a hydraulic
it was
failure, not a
hydraulic
technical.
failure, and I presented it to you as a technical failure.
Well, we'll make sure the minutes have that correct.
I don't know if you want to open that up and not approve the ACO?
No, they would approve
No,
it.
we would approve
Definitely,
it.
no, on a hydraulic failure, absolutely.
No, trust me, we
Yeah,
would
that
approve it.
wouldn't, yeah, no.
You just make sure if it's in the minutes, and actually,
Which one was that? 253?
207,
207 was a hydraulic?
hydraulic failure.
hydraulic failure.
Do you mind if I follow up and ask them, because I know that is an issue. So that in other situations in Nantucket where we've had a hydraulic failure, they are not, what do you do if you want to fix it?
Well, if you want to fix it, you have to, the recommendation from us is you have to get into the ACO and do a Band-Aid repair until sewer comes out there.
So are they going to be doing a Band-Aid repair?
This one will, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
This one will do a non-complying repair. It'll be better than what this is,
Right.
and then they'll escrow the money for the for sewer when it comes out.
And the repair helps a little bit, but it saves them from putting in a new system or an IA system or whatever.
Correct.
Okay. Until we finally deal with this whole thing, so.
Right, which is, just so you know, some of these people just want to put in an IA and be done with it, which we are going to frown upon because then once it's in and sewer comes there, they don't want to tie in. So
Yeah,
you
I
may
know.
see some of these people in front of you by us saying, I'm sorry, you have to enter into the ACO.
And they may think it's less expensive than the betterment, or they may just help them because for whatever reason they want to do that. Transfer reasons?
That's the reason.
Because I think we had one in Fisher's Landing, like this, where they want to go ahead and put in the IA system. Maybe I'm wrong, but something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good, and then I have to go to, the minute taker and I have to go to a minute-taking course
Oh,
next week. I don't know, it's taking,
Could I,
Yeah.
Chairman, just
Okay.
one request of Art.
Go right ahead.
And staff. I suspect we're gonna have other folks in the Harbor Watershed District coming forward with, who aren't happy. And I think you just should alert the chairman or something as these develop, so that we're aware of the scope of the issues. And I'm not sure how we're going to deal with them, but we're going to have to. It just helps us to be informed. Okay, because they're going to happen.
So I have a friend, this house is going on the market in North Pasture.
Yep.
So he's a very good friend of mine. So,
Well, I'm glad you voted the way you did.
so basically, I want to get this straight because I talk to him almost every day on Main Street. When his property transfers,
Yes.
if it's a regular system like this other guy's, there's no sense in getting it inspected. It's going to have to be an IA when he transfers to another owner.
He can save the money on the inspection by just installing the IA.
Right.
So that's why
Right.
he
So
came.
so what basically we're saying is, if people from up there come in now for variance, obviously we can't give them a variance. Okay, that's fine.
Unless there's
They can always come ask, but they
unless
better
there's
have
something.
But if they kind of know up front, don't bother.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's sort of the message. If I was out there listening,
Yeah.
I think what you decided here tonight was a pretty strong
Well,
message.
I think that sets the tone for what's going to happen. So that's why I'm going to say to him, look, we just had one that we had to deny. So, so if you're smart, you'll just add $30,000 onto the price of the house when you sell it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing no objections, we will close the meeting, and we'll see you a month from now.
thank you.
Hope it's a little warmer in here.